All right, so back on July 10th, I did a video which highlighted GameStop and a stock that at that point I thought had good potential to go higher. And it's done exactly that. Over the last few days, it's been moving up nicely. So I thought I'd do a follow-up video and give my thoughts on where GameStop is likely going, but also some of the stocks in that world of meme stocks, the roaring kitty stocks and stocks that get pushed on Reddit, namely CHWY, KOSS, AMC, FFIE. I want to look at those stocks. We'll give a quick analysis of them and give you a sense of where they're likely headed. All right, so let's begin with GameStop. And again, as you look here on screen, the reason I thought it had promise was because of the break right here. This was abnormal trading volume. The stock had been boring and it came alive and it's been moving up nicely since then. So now what's next? Well, first of all, the trend is up. That's good. So if we draw a little trend line there, you can see it's up. We are some distance above the trend line, and that increases the chance for a pullback. So in the short term, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little pullback. However, let's take a look at the longer term time frame, and there you can see that there's lots of potential. I think what's happening with GameStop is the market's starting to anticipate, look forward to some kind of information or news from the company about what they're going to do with their $4 billion plus of capital. And so you're seeing some speculation on that. There was some insider buying and just general optimism building. I think until there's a catalyst, until there's actually a news or a real rumor out about where GameStop is or what GameStop is going to do with that capital, it's just going to slowly grind around and maybe with a slight upward bias. And so what you want to watch for is when the stock starts to really trade abnormal volume and with a lot of volatility. If I was to look here at the 15-day, you can see that the volume isn't that abnormal. So in other words, it's buyers are there, the sellers aren't real strong, and it's just sort of grinding its way higher. It's not excited about something yet, and that's why I think it could pull back along the way. So I think it's a good hold. I wouldn't buy it here, but I'd watch for a buy signal if it starts to come alive again. Now another stock that Roaring Kitty Keith Gill is allegedly long of is this CHWY, and it's also been moving very similar fashion to GameStop. It's moving up for the last 4 or 5 days, and that's one thing that we see with these meme stocks is they tend to all move together because they're predominantly held by a lot of retail traders who are speculating on what's happening with these companies because of the chat rooms and discussion forums and that sort of thing. So they tend to move together. Again, there's no real exciting market activity here that makes me think that something is going on significantly. You can see the volume is not all that abnormal. It was abnormal back in June, and that led to this run, and that was largely because it was found out that Roaring Kitty had been a buyer of the stock. For now, it's again just moving up on optimism. I think it's a hold. I would sell if we see this upward trend line get broken, and I would think about buying it if it were to go into a sideways pattern and then come alive to the upside with really abnormal volume. Here's the thing. Stock market isn't fair. If you think it's fair, stop trading the stock market. There's always some people that have better information than others, and when they learn of something significant, they will act aggressively in the market, and that's why you want to follow abnormal trading activity. So if a stock is boring, like we were back here, and then it comes alive with abnormal volume and abnormal price action, that telegraphs the next move up. So that's what I want to watch for now, is it gets boring and then it comes alive with a spike of volume, then it becomes interesting. All right, next one that we're going to look at is AMC, which I know a lot of GameStop investors are also interested in. And really it's stuck in this, what we call an ascending triangle pattern. And that's an optimistic pattern. That's a good thing, because what's essentially happening is every time there's selling pressure, the sellers can't push the stock down as low as they had the previous time. So that shows us that the buyers are stronger than the sellers. What we need, however, is a breakout through this $6 level with good volume. If that happens, then I think you have to consider buying the stock. But until that happens, it's a hold, but it could be a parking lot. It could be a long wait for the stock to move. Now, I'm going to continue on with FFIE. And just a reminder, I'm doing this analysis on a regular basis a few times a week on different stocks and different markets. So subscribe to the channel. That way you get an update if you've got your notifications turned on, because these videos are free and I think they're fairly informative and hopefully helpful. All right, let's take a look at FFIE. Now this one is interesting because here you see that boring trading and then an increase in volume on the 15th with a break to the upside. Right now it's in a pullback. And so typically the way upward trends work is they go up, they pull back and they break. They go up, they pull back and they break. You do not want to be a buyer chasing the market higher up here. So in other words, you do not want to be a buyer up here. You want to either buy the initial breakout, which was here, or you want to buy the pullback, which hasn't happened, or the break of the pullback, which hasn't happened yet. So there's our pullback. If we could break the pullback, then it becomes a buy again. Typically it'll pull back to the upward trend line, so we could see it pull back a little farther, bounce off of the trend line, and at that point I think it's worth considering. Until then, if you're in it, it's a hold, but I wouldn't buy it unless you see a little more of a pullback and then a break of the pullback. So GME, FFIE, CHWY, and the last one I wanted to look at is KOSS. This is, I think, the most interesting. This is another stock that Roaring Kitty is allegedly long of, and that's why it had this big jump here. When stocks are really abnormal, they get my attention. Okay, so this stock started to behave abnormally here. It made this move, and then it pulled back, and then it got really abnormal early in July. Well, I don't want to chase that strength. You know, when it's running way up here, it's a fool's game to chase that. However, when they pull back and then they break their pullback, and so what we're looking at now is a 10-day, 13-minute chart. So here's the pullback, and then today it broke the pullback, traded more volume than usual. That tells me that the buyers are starting to get optimistic. Now, it probably needs to get up through this $11 mark, because if it does that, then it will have done what I call a bottom fishing pattern. A bottom fishing pattern is as follows. Stock's in a downward trend, breaks the downward trend, that's step one. Builds a sideways trading range, that's step two, and then breaks up from a rising bottom, step three. And we are not yet at step three. We've done one, we've done two. So here's one, and here's two, the rising bottom building, and we just need to break out from the rising bottom. So if KOSS can break through resistance from this little rising bottom as early as tomorrow, and tomorrow being Wednesday, I'm doing this video on Tuesday after the market closed. If that can happen, then I think we could see that stock move as well. So anyway, there's a few of those meme stocks with a leaning toward the Roaring Kitty stocks. Hopefully you've enjoyed this analysis. Let me know with a like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment if you have one. Hope you've enjoyed it, and trade well.